Good morning from the northern region of the Altai Mountains in western Mongolia. This is spectacular. Right on the other side of that ridgeline is Russia. We're in an extremely remote part of Mongolia and we're at 3,500 meters. This video is about flying drones from altitude. Let's go.
Okay, shall I start?
Yes.
So right now this area is called the presidential owo, because like these pile of stone things are one of the shamanistic and Buddhistic rituals, which is called owo. So they do like ritual, like ceremony every 4 years here. So that was on the 3rd of August here. So actually we see the highest, like the completely white peak over there. That's the highest peak in Mongolia, which is 4,374 meters above the sea level. And we see this one, right? And that's 4,095 meters above the sea level. Actually, this one is called the Friendship Peak because in here, Russian, Mongolian, and Chinese border meets. All the borders, yeah. So basically, behind that peak it's Russia. If you go that side, it's China. So that's why we're basically at the border, and that's why we need that special permission, to travel around here.
Flying drones at altitude. A couple of things to consider is that it's probably going to be colder where you are, and the colder it is, the less functionality and power you'll get out of your batteries. So even if you have a fully charged battery on the Mavic 2 Pro, for example, you should be able to get around 22 minutes of flight time. And I would say that at altitude, when it's cold and there's snow near where you're flying, it could be down to around 15 minutes, maybe even less, depending on how much wind is around. The other one is wind. If you're at high altitude, you're genuinely going to be in a windy environment, and you really need to keep that in mind when you're flying to make sure that your drone is strong enough to fly into the headwind to make sure that you can also get back, but we'll touch on that in a bit. I think another really important thing to note when flying drones at altitude is the density of the air. So I think, as you know, the higher you get, the thinner the air is, and it's really difficult for the props to get enough propulsion to lift the drone depending on how high you are. Now I'm assuming that DJI has a max altitude warning or some sort of recommendation. I don't know what it is. If you know, put it in the comments below. Getting a bit overexposed. Sun's coming out. Hold on. There we go. If you know the max altitude for DJI, throw it in the comments. There's that wind. But I think that, I think 3,900 give or take is probably around the right max altitude. That's about what I've flown at. And right now we're just below that. So it should be interesting to put the drone up in the air in these conditions and see what we can come up with. And as you can hear, it's really windy. When you're flying drone at altitude, you're genuinely going to have to deal with some wind. Luckily for us, a few of us have the Mavic 2 Pro here, and we've sort of been consulting about what the max wind capacity is, I guess, how strong the wind needs to be before you can't fly into that headwind. And right now it's probably around 18 miles an hour, give or take, maybe a little bit less. And it's just at that threshold where it could be a little too much with gusts. So what we're doing is actually flying into the headwind for the first version of the flight, so that when you need to come back to your home point, you're flying with the wind and therefore saving less battery and getting back a lot faster. So we're at our spot where we're gonna set up camp for the night, and the weather is perfect. Perfect conditions to fly. We've had some off and on wind throughout the afternoon, but right now we've got sort of scattered clouds which are creating these really cool shadows. So what I'm gonna do is set up a hyperlapse with the Mavic 2 Pro. So what I wanna do is just set my home point to where we are right now. And once that's set, we can take off. And basically all I'm gonna do is fly down the valley, turn it around, course lock my hyperlapse at intervals of 2 seconds, probably about F8 and 400 over 1 second. And hopefully it'll turn out great with probably a little bit of warp stabilizer in post. Let's see what it looks like. Hey, we're back down from that hyperlapse. I realized that the hyperlapse effect doesn't have too much to do with flying drones from altitude, but I have seen a lot of the comments from a lot of you guys and even people who commented on one of my community posts about what they wanted to see from Mongolia about how I go about flying drones. Now, if you're new to the channel or you're new to my style of filmmaking and video production, I am a Spanish certified drone pilot as well as a Canadian basic certified drone pilot, both of which aren't that difficult to get, but it does give me the knowledge, I guess, to be able to work and to fly quite regularly all over the world. And I have had the opportunity of flying at altitude a few times, and this is actually relatively easy because as much as there's wind effect, other than that, the weather is like fantastic, and the DJI Mavic 2 Pro has shown no signs of the altitude effect at all. Like, it seems to have perfect propulsion. I think a couple of the guys have gotten it up to around 400 feet, and it seems to be totally fine. So yeah, all is well in the land of flying drones at altitude here in Mongolia. So if you're planning on coming here and you have a drone, I highly suggest you bring it, plus like at least 2 extra batteries. Couple more points that come to mind when flying drones at high altitude, and they are your fitness and the rapidly changing weather. So the first one being your fitness mentally and physically. If you're at altitude, it can affect everybody differently, and a lot of the side effects of being at high altitude are sort of lightheadedness or dizziness or being tired, all things you don't want to be feeling when flying the drone. Keith, how are you doing right now?
I'm fine.
He's totally fine. I'll take his word for it. He hasn't fallen over yet. So Keith is mentally and physically fit, so he is good to fly. Then the other one is rapidly changing weather. So as you've probably seen in this vlog today, the weather here has been all over the place. It's been really good, but the wind is really pushing the clouds across. And because we're at such a high altitude, a lot of those weather systems from Russia and from China on the other side are pushing through to this part of Mongolia. So we have to be wary if you're going to be flying for upwards of 20 minutes of how quickly that weather is going to change, and be prepared for it when it happens. Dynamite! That's the greatest line ever.
Dynamite? Yeah, like dynamite or panamite.
Switching on a long exposure of a really simple shot. There's not a lot of time to figure this shot out. 30 seconds, f16. It's looking really blue in camera, but that'll work.
It is nearing sunset and the light has completely popped. It is outstanding. This is possibly some of the best light I've seen in a while, and I'm very lucky to travel all over the world. If you are one of the subscribers, you know from watching this channel. and I'm so happy to be able to share another incredible location with you with just some absolutely stunning light, and it's part of a drone video. How cool is that? So this is definitely a great way to end the drone tips and tricks at high altitude. We're walking down to sort of the mouth of the glacier to try and get a different angle on it. Brendan and a couple of the crew are already down there, so I want to try and catch up with them to do my job. One of the reasons I'm here, to film for him and get the footage that he needs for his channel. So be sure to go and check out Brendan's channel if you haven't already, because he's got some really good Mongolia content coming up very soon. And looks like our sun is almost cresting the horizon there. I wonder, we hope we're not too late. I gotta finish the vlog. All right, so as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to write your comments down below. Let me know what you think about flying drones at high altitude. Any other tips or tricks you can think of, throw them in there so that other people can read them and they know what's up. And yeah, it's just so good to be able to share this place with you guys via the drone and via the cameras and the stills. But I'm rambling away at the end of the video as always. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like it, and I will see you on the next one.